One of my interests over the most recent 5 years has been working with the veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. Having years of experience with Vietnam vets, what we realized was that most of them weren't getting better with the kind of treatments that we were giving them. And what we realized from the Vietnam vets was that they had developmental trauma or complex trauma, and they had PTSD compounded upon it. So if they had been molested as a child and then they went to Vietnam, they weren't going to get better unless you deal with the molestation and the PTSD from Vietnam. Now, if you use the Iraqi vets or the Afghanistan vets, they're probably the most difficult population that we've ever worked with, because a lot of them went to Afghanistan or Iraq because they were already in trouble. You know, they were having multiple developmental traumas or complex trauma, family traumas, unable to make relationships work. They're miserable, unhappy. Some of them were suicidal. And instead of committing suicide, they decided to go to Iraq and, go into the front lines. So now you have all the things that took them to Iraq in the first place, and then you have the experience of Iraq itself. And while they were there, they saw children killed, they saw families killed, they saw things that in other wars you didn't see. You didn't know who the enemy was. That could be anybody at any time. And so it was chronic stress over long periods of time, which is really different than frontline kind of war. It's just a different kind of stress that affects your central nervous system in a very different kind of way. And then they came back, and the weapons of mass destruction weren't quite there. And so the meaning of why they were there, they went there originally for patriotic reasons to help their country, and then they begin to develop this sense of feeling like, what was I doing? Why did I do it? And was it really necessary or even useful? And when you're saving the world from Nazism, it's a whole different thing than coming back from Iraq and wondering, what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and who you're doing it for. And so making meaning out of this experience has been incredibly difficult. So I must say, it is an enormous challenge, and for a therapist who's been doing this for 35 years, it's a real challenge to be able to work with the intensity of what that person is dealing with. And then on top of it, they try to get in relationships and have families, and there are now new problems that are created because, their problems are passed on, so their children are beginning to have huge problems and begin acting out in varieties of ways, or their marriages end up in divorce, or they end up homeless. And so, it's problem after problem after problem compounded upon it, and every one of them needs specialized attention. So I love working with this population. I know it sounds strange, but there's absolutely so much you can do, and they deserve it. It's like they've given so much that we owe them everything, and we end up created so much of the problem that we need to take seriously what they're getting. And the enormity of the problem, and it's overwhelmed by the VA. The VA just can't have enough services. They say, I don't know if it's true, that the cost of working with the vets that are back here is more than the cost of the war itself. If it was $1 million per soldier per day to send somebody over to Iraq, the cost of doing rehabilitative therapy must be just incredibly overwhelming, but whatever the cost is, I think we have to do it because these people are suffering enormously.